So we have here some horrible news. Of course, it turned out great this time. Sad that more of our citizens are even up to this kind of thing, but these are homegrown. Realize that. These are homegrown. They represent a different kind of threat than the Muslim threat that was somewhat manufactured, somewhat for real. It's just that the hate is so for real, and the hate is always there, the greed, but largely people who themselves, they think they're great people, they're not such great people, but they know that when it comes down to if they're compared against love. But when they're compared against, when you have that greed in there, well then you're part of that major sin of greed, in that it's hard then to have an honest broker of truth to say to anybody that's wrong. And so that's all we ever try to do, is justify that greed. But love compromises, and we can't lose focus of that, because otherwise you never get out of the crazy cycle, and the craziness is not what you need. Love also comforts, and that you can get a certain comfort from every situation just by having the truth. The truth is comforting, because actually then you know where you're at, and you could work within the confines of that truth, and you can have so much. It's just common sense. That's what it becomes. So what I'd like to do is just stick to the facts to start with, and as you can see, in full disclosure, this is the story by CNN. So we're just going based on what CNN is saying about what the FBI had just foiled. That's what this is. So I'm going to read that to you now. So authorities this weekend announced they had foiled 3 potential mass shootings after arresting 3 men in different states who expressed interest or threatened to carry those attacks out. All 3 cases were brought to authorities' attention thanks to the public. Here's what we know about them. Police say he had the motivation and the ammunition. In Connecticut, 22-year-old Brandon Waxler Hull was arrested after authorities said he had expressed interest in committing a mass shooting on Facebook, according to a statement from the FBI. So people are getting arrested for what they say on Facebook. Know that. If you see a red flag for mass shootings, this is what you should do, is what they're telling people, and that's what it says here. So it gives you directions on that. He faces 4 charges of legal possessions of large capacity magazines and is being held on a $250,000 bail bond. He's scheduled to appear in court on September 6th. According to the statement, authorities received a tip that Wags Hall was trying to buy large capacity rifle magazines from out of state. As the FBI and the Norwalk Police Department discovered Wags Hall was trying to build his own rifle and allegedly posted on Facebook about his interest in committing a mass shooting. And that's what this statement is saying. Authorities have not provided details on what the post said exactly. Brandon Wax Hall. So authorities executed a search warrant and found multiple weapons, including a handgun, a rifle scope with a laser, numerous rounds of ammunition, body armor, a ballistic helmet, and other tactical gear. And police have said this. Some of the registers were registers to Wagshaw's father, but he had access to them, said the authorities. CNN has reached out to the prosecutor and the defense attorney, and he told he would have liked to have gotten 100 kills. And this Mr. Scott Wickska of Daytona Beach was arrested also in a Winn-Dixie parking lot on Friday after he sent his girlfriend a series of disturbing texts in which he allegedly threatened to commit a mass shooting.
Sorry,
and that's what Volusia County Sheriff's Office has said. The ex-girlfriend has alerted the authorities, and the messages, the 25-year-old said he wanted to open fire on a large number of people, and that's what the sheriff's station said. A good 100 kills would be nice, one message read. He also said he had the location in mind. So now we have Tristan Wicks. He faces charges of making these written threats, threatening to kill or make bodily injury to peoples via text messaging of Daytona Beach. He faces charges of making written threats to kill or do bodily injury after a series of ominous text messages. A school was a weak target. It'd be more likely to open fire on a large crowd of people from 3 miles away. I want to break a world record for the longest confirmed kill ever, is what he said, is what the messages have said, according to the sheriff's office. And so basically he's bragging about having fun doing it. And it's so disgusting, some of this stuff, even just repeating it. And so he had so much ammunition in his apartment, and he told investigators that he didn't own any firearms, but that he was fascinated with mass shootings. And Wicks was being held without bond Sunday at the Volusia County Jail. CNN could not immediately determine Sunday whether Wicks had an attorney. He was accused of threatening a Jewish community center. Now we have Ohio. James Patrick, arrested for allegedly threatening to carry out a shooting of a Youngstown Jewish community center. While El Paso and recent other attacks in the U.S. are modern-day lynchings. What? An Instagram account belonging to the shared a video of the man firing a gun, and this was in the New Middletown Chief Police has said that. The post, which was shown to an officer, tagged the Jewish community in Youngstown, said the video. It's unclear whether the man shooting the gun was written or whether it was someone else. So there's some arbitrary aspects to this as well. All right, so here's the point. Okay, I just want to, it's important to just give some of that hell, even though we don't want to hear it so much. The point is, this is the hell that we are partly stoking ourselves when we prop up greed. Because these guys don't have a world worth living in. I get that. You know, that's what I see, but I see the truth too. So I have hope. I have that hope that I'm giving out to others. I do it all the time. That's why you got to help me also stay doing this, because I help you. I provide you material value, and you know it. And so that's why you got to help me stay on the air, so that I could stay on the air. That's the first thing. And we're running for president. We're going further. So help me stay on the air. We got to get past one goal just to make it to the next. Don't be somebody who takes only. That's not how this can work. And then we can't do anything special. But when you have the truth, and you're working with the truth, and within the confines of that truth, and you do your part, and you know you're doing your part when you do your part, because that truth speaks for itself, then that's to be respected. That's just the laws. It's in our human nature. That's where I pulled that from. And of course, this is just natural understanding of the human condition that we all have, and it speaks to that. That's what the truthers ultimately are doing. And so we have to remember that. And what I want to do is take this moment and just do some call outs here, because I know some of you guys are keeping up to the moment with me here, which is good. And that when you do that, we can have more of this spiritual kind of talk, where we can bounce off each other. We bring more spirit to the conversation, and that improves the conversations. Make no mistake about it. there's a big aspect to that improves it. So be yourself present in the conversation as often as you can, because you're enjoying it already. You're already within it. There is no expectation outside of everybody being themselves in the moment. Not, you don't want to not be yourself, and that's the freedom that we all desire, that we all want, that we're all fighting for. And I'm just getting to where the comments are. It takes so long, you got to fight through so many little paths, and then you finally get there. But in any event, I just want to say hi to hi Christina. How are you? It's good to see you, Christina. And I appreciate you listening and what we're talking about. It's such special stuff. People, they get so self-conscious, they think somebody's on the other end. It's so scary. It's not scary. We're all coming from the same life force. And in fact, we could share so much, and we could be open. And we could be open about that. We could be open about that and so much more. And the things that we're sharing is so special because it's a selfless share. So there is no embarrassment. If there was a reason to be embarrassed, for example, then I would have most of that reason. So we just got to remember that and realize that in that you're allowed to start small and grow big, because you got staying power. You got staying power, so that means it grows. But the thing is that you've got to stick with it. You've got to also then stick with it. But because it's the truth, and that I espouse that truth all the time and every day, then you know that you're on the right path yourself too, and that it helps you. And that these things that I'm saying, they're actually building blocks. And I just want to say hi to Ray and my brother Francis, Lucky. And so these are building blocks, and they give you each and every single time a new opportunity to grow your soul. And that's powerful, because when you have that, then I once again make one of those bold contentions, if you ever try and say against, and that is that you have the ability to fight your own battles within. That's depression, all of those things. And you don't have that unless you make it real in your life. You can't say you're living a life worth living and go halfway and make that compromise. That's a compromise too far. So you have to say, if I'm going to love, then I have to find ways I can do that within. Love makes compromises, that's okay, I will say that. But here's the difference between, this is what seems so similar between love and greed. And you have to, at this point in the juncture, you're going to have to say that, right? The difference between love and greed is that greed demands every time. And because it's always demanding, it doesn't get anywhere without the demand. It's just the way it works, and there's so many examples of that. So because it demands and it doesn't get anywhere without that, love, well, it makes compromises then, because it's got to work around that. It's got to deal with it, because it's a factor. It's there. There's always these bad guys. It's just that there's more of them than even there should be right now, because most of us desire to do good. That's the thing. So the battle between good and evil is actually between love and hate. And we know that too, even, right? Ultimately, because these are still truths that are speaking from the soul. That part of it never changes. So a lot of this, we're talking about shootings that could have been, that never was. We know just behind that, there'll be the shootings that are, and that it's coming from a homegrown element. Think about that. These are red-blooded Americans, and they're pissed off. And so it's just going to keep happening, which makes a candidacy like mine all the more needed. All the more needed. Because otherwise we'll never have somebody in the top spot that's a pure heart. So that's why it doesn't matter. And that's why it doesn't matter so far as this endeavor goes. I'm doing what I was doing before I ran for president. I say that often because the fact is, I'm a happy healer at heart. Happy healers are happy at their very heart. They have bad days. They cry. They deal with all the same things everyone else deals with. But at the heart of it, they're happy because they have those core principles that allows them to be that they are free and allowed to love themselves the very most. That you can love yourself the most, because that's true appreciation, because you are given life, right? And so then when you can truly appreciate, then you can make sacrifices for that life. Then the life, its very self, it has value. And what we tend to do now is we argue against those facts, but they're not facts you can argue against. They're non-budgeable. They're just non-negotiable. So we're doing very well. I know a lot of you guys, you are so busy and so completely caught up in that world, and so am I. And it's just barking down on my back door all the time. And one of those things is that I need donations too for this cause, because otherwise I'm going to have which I'm still going to be doing it. There's ways I do it locally already. So in any sense, I don't sell out just if there is nothing. That's the point. But the point is that there'll be nothing, and then I'll be off the air, and I'm trying to keep things going smoothly. I'm actually selling my home. Soon I wouldn't even need to say this kind of stuff. And that's where I hope to get soon. So, and I will be, and I'm confident that I will be. And that this is the right message, that people like this message, and that it's a worth message for me to carry on with, because I have so much of it. And so given all those things, I don't even want to take a small break, because I've been making so much progress. So if you can help me in this moment keep with the system going, well, then I'm here doing the system. I'm working it, because the system isn't going to work itself. And the love isn't going to put itself out there. I'll work for free. I don't mind doing that. And I'm just worried that the system's going to get shut down. And then this small little platform, and that's all love ever needed. And then that's shut down. Again, that's been happening a lot. It's okay. I'm breaking through. That's what we do. We break through. That's how we do it. Otherwise, we never do it. That's the only way it could ever get done. If we don't break through, then love loses. And that's the ultimate battle. Remember, it was always that. And when love loses all the way, then it's stamped out forever. But if greed loses all the way, it's stamped out. It seems to be the ultimate battle between good and evil. That's where I made that connection myself. And I'm still exploring these ideas. We all learn together. And we have to be brave to share what we know. That's what the truth community is about. And then we debate these different things, the deeper elements of this. And a lot of my truth is held up so strong. And that's the thing that, we enjoy as people who are generally in the feeling of truth and love, and realizing that that's the way to go, and that we're exploring the human condition instead of ignoring it, and that we're trying to find answers for others to live by that is responsible and that feeds to that. It's actually very rewarding for us. So we don't want to be taken off that mission. And can you imagine? That's like me in hell. And when I'm in heaven, I'm right here. I'm sure it shows, because I feel it. And so that's something you can gift to people. Why would that want to be off? It's pleading out to you to not let it go off. And so that's where I come from. And that if it is off, then I'm doing whatever else I can. I just go to the next notch. I mean, the whole point, and I put a video about this back when I was at the center. Well, we have our reality. And the thing is I said then, it's not about, you go as far as you can go. You go every last bit, every last inch, all the way to the last moment that you can go. And then that's as far as you can go. Sometimes that's better than what you needed to go, to the bare minimum. But that's how we do when we work in passion. But other times you go so far as you can go, and it's not even minimum enough. Well, we all matter, but we're all working it so far as we can go. That's where the reward's at, and that's what love does. We'll never get that kind of input, output, or anything out of humanity when you're dealing with greed. Greed does the bare minimum and then sits on its ass and says that that's life. But I contend otherwise. I know otherwise. And that in love, you get to do all your passions. You get to do them full time. That's heaven on earth, if you ask me. Because I love my passions. I'm doing it right now. All right, now I'm not going to say heaven on earth is a spiritual place, but I will say we are a spiritual people, and that God gave us a way to have happiness in this life, that it would be actually very unfair and not very poetic to have no sign of the ability of what love could come out to be on the world. It can, and it's within each one of us. And we have to speak up and speak out for love. We have to make that a full-time passion. Many of us do already. Everywhere we go, we're speaking about it. We can't destroy ourselves in that. So that's where we have to have that balance, that trade-off, that compromise. But realize it's a compromise. Don't kid yourself that everything's peachy. That's a start. And try to do things to bridge the divide. Try to make concessions, further ones, things that you're comfortable with. For one thing, help truthers, people who are getting this message out. because they're underappreciated. Remember, love don't pay so well in America. If I were to pursue greed, I have all this ability. I could use this for greed. If I did that, then I would do massively much better, wouldn't I? I have a lot of friends telling me to do that, but I prefer to do this. This is funner, and this is more meaning, and this saves souls. So why would I choose that, which is just doing nothing but making that horrible news I started out with true? And what if it's you who's in the line of fire? You're already playing in fire by accepting this greed. Think about it. Think about it. You're already playing in fire by accepting this greed so willingly. Yes, we can live in two worlds. We almost have to sometimes. I learned that being gay. And when you live in those two worlds, you make it work. You have to make it work. During the Nazi occupation, they had to have people that were Jewish pretending not to be Jewish. They lived in two worlds. Same thing with the gay people. They had the pink triangles. And they also had to pretend they weren't gay, or in some cases go to extreme lengths to hide that. And that still continued for a very long time. That's why I always say, never forget your freedom fighters. It's every freedom. It doesn't matter if you're gay or any kind of freedom. It is so important. And so that's where this campaign's going. And it's love that gets us there. That's what gives us our self-determination to realize these truths that provide it. Otherwise, we just end up in that empty space, wandering, looking for what ultimately this is. All of our life, we're pursuing it. We get to the other side and we say, ultimately, the grass is no greener here. The same headaches are here that were over there. Yes, you have to create your own magic, but you have the tools within to do it. You have to join the movements that create it for you. And you know those movements because we all have within us that switch that can be turned on. And I turn it on every time. I turn it on because I know it exists. In that love, you can create that. And with that comes a new value. A new value. A greater value that serves to life. I have saved lives. And I have people in this campaign that they donate on the monthly basis committed to this campaign. Think about that. This campaign is so much more than running for president. So get that part out of your mind alone, because I'm steady on this campaign and I'm not going nowhere. Running for president for me is easy in that regard because I just attach it to my Happy Healer mission and I keep going. Very simple stuff. But think about what we can do. Put a Happy Healer over there. Think about that. What can be done? Because the whole thing about making it over to this world is that you can't jump there all the way, that it's got to be such a transition because otherwise you can't survive. But if you have a president that's in the right place with the right knowledge, can implement the right policy and bring the people with him to get it done, we can do amazing things. Oh, and I'll bring the people. You know that. So that's the whole idea. I'm a humble guy. A humble son. I've been humbled so many times. Oh yes, I've had to be by the struggles, and you've been humbled too. You've had them. You ultimately know that hell. You've lived it. So how many times are you going to live it, and how many times am I going to live it before we both decide it's too much hell to bear and that we change our ways? Because ultimately that's the test we're up against. And if we can get to it, then we could do special stuff. We could serve for humanity. Stick with me here, in that humanity can make its own life better in a way like it's never done before, because it has the right leadership and it's talking about the one truth that we can all agree on, the part that serves the human spirit and gets Trump. Think about it, Democrats. This is part of the path to victory that I see when I mention this. It's that we have the ability to bring Trump people on. So let's say that's your main concern, isn't it? So let's say some of my spiritual friends convince you, with me together, us, we convince you to nominate me, that they're already Trump people. So then you come together with us. We have a union already that represents the unity of this country after the election. We can get to work even before. I'd take office if that plan were to play out properly, and I believe it's a sound one. Because the Democrats are still in search of a winner. And right now, they don't have one. Not right now. They don't have one. Nobody that could beat Trump. And that's the thing. A lot of Trump people don't want to see what they're putting up beat Trump. And I understand that. But guess what? They want to see me beat Trump. And they were never about Trump. They're about their salvation first. They're about doing what's right according to our God and the overall almighty truth, the one that speaks to all of our hearts in terms of having a better life for our children and for ourselves. Something to be hopeful about, to build upon the hell that we now created for ourselves. It was great. The greed brought us into a certain amount, but then it giveth, it taketh away. That's how greed is. It's trickery and cunnery. It's so cunning. It was only able to give because it took from so much from somewhere else. Remember that. It doesn't come free. You know that. Nothing is free. You knew that. See, so this is the part that finishes. You're already knowing that. Nothing is free. Where do you think the greed gets all that from? Remember, it's the love that creates the life. And it's the love that persists. It's the reason we want to go do this, to meet the next one, so we can have a family and then a children, and then you want to grow old. And it's always with the people in your life. It's the love. And then that love loses to greed, and big time, too big to bear at this point in time. We are putting souls, precious souls, in factories, while we have robotics abilities to get those souls free with an income. That's why I talk about that, and it's a sound argument. And it makes sense, and it makes sense to religious folk too. All right, folks, we'll be back. God bless you. And God bless this country too. We do need it. And our people. And people all over, really. We're all God's people. But we better get serious about, like I said, in this world there are compromises. And we have control over this country. And we have to take our culture. Let's talk about the American issues, because that's what a lot of people are concerned about. Our culture is under attack in so many ways. And this is who we are. So we have to be able to protect that, and that love allows us to do that. And that love allows so many things. And then later we have other issues that we progress and that we fix. That's just how love works. Love is a unifying, it's a repairing force, it's a healing force. And so we just have to tap into that if we want any hope of solving these things. Otherwise, the only love you get is in pockets. And that's not enough, I contend. All right, good night.